everybody feels good about the Panthers, and everybody loves Bryce Young, and it's great to see.
39,000 people there on a Wednesday night to go watch them practice. So
it was a good number, man. Wow. It was a good number.
And for $5, which all goes to charity, apparently, according to David Tepper and the Panthers organization.
I believe it.
Yeah. I mean, the vibes are good, and it's always great to have FanFest back in town. And for Bryce Young, who everyone wants to see first night at Bank of America Stadium, the vibes are good. But we'll find out kind of next week, kind of where this team is at when the Jets come down to Spartanburg for joint practices. I'm especially looking at the offensive line because the Jets probably have the deepest defensive line group in the entire NFL. So we'll start learning a little bit more about this team. But so far through a week, Bryce Young looks good. The coaching staff is efficient and professional and a lot different than the last one that we had here. So yeah, the vibes are great.
At some point, it's funny. No, maybe it's because Matt Rule's back in college. We can all sit here and roast Matt Rule, and nobody's going to get all pearl clutching about it. You mentioned the Jets. If you say anything about Nathaniel Hackett and the worst offense in the NFL last year, the worst coaching job in the NFL last year, where he got fired before the season was over, well, then we have to have a week's worth of referendum on Nathaniel Hackett.
You can say it. I can say it. Julian can say it. But another coach should say it.
The coach can say it too, man.
Back me up here, Julian.
All Sean Payton did, dude, was say the truth. I don't see what the problem is.
That's so true. And I've thought about that too. We spent from like week one, when he opted to kick like a 60-yard field goal in Seattle, we've been grossing this dude because I looked at it then I was like, yeah, this guy does not have it. Like, he had to hire a coach to coach him after that decision in Seattle, and you knew right then and there this ain't gonna work. So I applaud the Broncos for cutting the cord. It's a new ownership group, but I applaud them for at least getting rid of him and understanding this guy is in over his head. But yeah, but all Sean Payton said was exactly how everyone felt, and probably the people and even the players on that staff in Denver felt about Nathaniel Hackett. But I do understand the whole code, and coaches not supposed to say that kind of stuff. But also coaches oftentimes bite their tongue on things that they should say. So is the code something that's a good thing? Probably not.
I am curious, since we kind of stumbled into the conversation with the Jets because the Panthers are playing the Jets, or they're having their joint practices against the Jets, and we've heard this plenty of times now over the last couple of years that these joint practices are way more valuable than any sort of preseason game action, which is mostly for the fans and for television purposes. We're sitting here talking about how everything is really looking great, or at least everybody feels good about the Panthers, and the Panthers are doing a great job presenting it that way on social media and everything else. And I almost feel like playing the Jets, where the distraction really is around Aaron Rodgers, Hard Knocks, and everything else. That Bryce Young as a top pick in the NFL draft, the scrutiny is usually on, is this going to work out? Did they make the wrong guy? How does he compare to CJ Stroud, et cetera, et cetera? I feel like that distraction of the Jets will benefit the Panthers this offseason because they can kind of lay low and keep the thing going.
Well, yeah, you turn on ESPN nowadays, and because they care about markets more than they actually care about teams that are any good, it's pretty much the New York Jets TV show. Now, the Panthers will be in the spotlight early on because they play on Monday Night Football, and the fact that they're already in Charlotte and in a market and a team that has been to the playoffs since 2017, they're not going to get that much talk. Now, if they do have some success, and because Bryce Young was the number one overall pick, then there will be some talk. I just think this preseason, aside from the NFL Network, who was here earlier this week, I just don't think that they're going to get a lot of press. And yeah, they'll probably be in the clips of Hard Knocks whenever that airs, I guess in a couple of weeks, once the Jets come down here for that episode. Yeah, they're going to be able to lay low. And I think the pressure here in the city and the market's still going to be pretty big and high for Bryce Young to be able to be the guy, considering everything they've been through at quarterback with Cam's injury, people talking themselves into Kyle Allen, who couldn't hold on to the football, even Heineke, who was here, and the lies that they were sold, and Baker Mayfield, people trying to believe that Matt Corral was the savior when he was drafted in the third.
Oh, jeez.
Don't remind me of that, man. There's still a ton of pressure on Bryce Young here. I just don't think nationwide anyone cares. It's kind of like, hey, go out there and win games. And J.C. Horn had talked about it once camp opened up, how he feels like they're not really being respected. And someone asked him why. He's like, well, we really haven't won a lot of games. Yeah, well, you don't earn respect, and you don't really earn the attention of the league until you start winning games. And Frank Reich came out and said, we have an opportunity where we got a new quarterback. There's going to be some intention there, but this team has some good players. Derek Brown can be a star. Brian Burns can be a star. There's some really solid players, and even some veterans like Von Bell who comes in who can help this team be relevant once December rolls around, it's going to go out there and earn it. So I still think there's pressure. There's just not a lot of talk right now, off-season wise, aside from, okay, hey, cool, you got a new coaching staff and the number one pick at quarterback.
I think the answer can be both, Julian, but who will Bryce Young's best friend be? Miles Sanders or Hayden Hurst?
The offensive line.
Oh,
I feel like that's the theme of the show because Julian, with StreamYard, I can see you in the little green room. Yeah. And when Giglio was talking about the Tar Heels and their offensive line, you were like nodding, like, yes, it's the offensive line. Although I feel in college offensive line it's like kickers, like college kickers. College offensive lines can be just as voodoo as anything else. In the NFL, you could do something about it. So, what is it about the Panthers offensive line that's got you a little worried?
I'm not concerned about them. I actually think that they're in a good spot there. Okay. Now, the only concern really would be, I guess, at right guard, Austin Corbett tore his ACL week 18 against the Saints, started off on PUP, and Scott Fair, the general manager, came out first day of training camp saying that he's ahead of schedule. I still wouldn't expect him to play the first 4 weeks, as if he starts off the season on PUP, he has to miss the first 4 weeks. So Cade Mays, who was a 5th-round pick out of Tennessee last year, he's been sliding in there at right guard. We'll learn a lot about him next week against the Jets, where, again, deepest defensive line group in the NFL. But that offensive line went from the greatest weakness, aside from the quarterback position, to probably the greatest strength for the Panthers heading into this year. And Ike Ekwonu has taken that next step, looks great at left tackles, pretty good last year. And here's the thing, he started off poorly. Yeah, he played against Myles Garrett. Then after that, you didn't hear his name all season long. As an offensive lineman, that's a good thing. You don't want to hear about him. We've known a lot about Panthers left tackles the last couple of years. Matt Khalil, Mike Rimmers. That's not a good thing because those guys struggled. So I feel like the offensive line with Taylor Moton at the right tackle position, Christensen back, Bozeman that they brought back at center, that's to me his best friend, because we talk about Bryce Young being undersized, being the anomaly with that size and that weight. Okay, well, if he's not getting touched, then it's not going to be a problem. I think his offensive line would be his best friend. Now, I would say probably Hayden Hurst, though, of your question, would be the guy who'd be his best friend, considering how the tight end's going to be utilized in this Frank Reich offense, and that Hayden Hurst knows that he's coming in here to catch a lot of balls. And you think about the last couple of seasons, when the Panthers traded away Dan Arnold and that 3rd-round pick to Jacksonville to bring in C.J. Henderson after Christian McCaffrey went down, but also when J.C. Horn went down, I think they really hampered Sam Darnold's ability to find that check down, because when he lost McCaffrey, he didn't really know what to do, because it was really one read, where's Christian? Then when you lose Christian and then you lose the other guy who you had built a lot of chemistry with in the preseason, that didn't help him moving forward, aside from the fact that, he's not very good.
I think you just described every quarterback outside Cam Newton that didn't know what to do without Christian McCaffrey being the safety valve.
Yeah. And that helps. So Hayden Hurst, they can be that. And Miles Sanders possibly could too, but I think the tight end will be targeted far more in this offense than Miles Sanders will.
But running backs, not worth the money. Not worth it. Christian McCaffrey, not worth the money, even though the offense fell apart without him. But it's neither here nor there, right?
I think Sanders is going to have a really good year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Julian, I hate praising the Panthers as much as I have this entire offseason. I really do. I just don't like them. They've done a remarkable job, though. The one thing I actually do like, too, was the 2nd-round pick. I felt like it was a scratch-off on Mingo. Well, what have you seen from him in camp? Like I said, I like to get out there and watch a guy. Just let me see how he runs a route. Let me see how he works in practice. Sometimes they can pop a little bit when you don't see it on tape, or if you were scouting Ole Miss last year in the middle of the year.
Yeah, I haven't been down to Spartanburg just yet, but the people I've talked to have said he hasn't really made that much noise so far, which I think is expected a week into it for a 2nd-round rookie wide receiver. We saw, Terrace Marshall, he was a 2nd-round guy. He had the health issues, I think, that kind of held him back the first couple of seasons. That's not the case with Mingo, and it feels like they really do think he can compete for that X wide receiver spot and possibly start week 1. But so far, like, the receivers that are standing out are really DJ Chark and, of course, Adam Thielen. So far, I haven't heard too much about Mingo. I know the other day, Sean Jefferson, the wide receiver coach, is really getting after him, which is a good thing. Yeah, that's a guy that you guys obviously believe in. They talked about pre-draft, how there's one guy who came in, had a really good meeting and interview with them, and that turned out to be Mingo. So this coaching staff wanted to bring him in, where the previous coaching staff / Scott Fitterer, they brought in Marshall to be that guy, where it really feels like they think Mingo can be it. It's just kind of one of those things where it's a learning curve, and you don't really know till the pads come on, and they've only had one day of padded practice, like real padded practice. So we got to wait till like kind of next week, and once the preseason rolls around, to really get an understanding of what he potentially can bring to this offense, even though if you really think about it, it's going to be Thielen, Chark, Hurst. Those are your top 3 guys. And then Mingo, Chenault, Marshall, like they're going to be your 4th, 5th, 6th options in this offense. Probably aren't going to be targeted that much, but it sounds like Mingo's kind of, going through the early rookie struggles, but we'll see what it looks like once the season rolls around.
Julian Council, Locked On Panthers podcast. Check them out on the podcast, on the YouTubes. We're just trying to get that sweet, sweet Panthers SEO summer, my man. That's what it's all about.
Well, I appreciate you guys trying to take my listeners. Like, what?
What are you talking about?
Whoa. Hey, no.
That's not what's happening here?
It's called cross promotion.
Cross promotion, Julian.
Whoa. Our podcast listeners go, oh, Julian's pretty cool. I'm going to check out his stuff. Because it's not like we're talking exclusively Panthers all the time on our podcast.
No, I envy you guys for that. No, I'm kidding.
We know.
Don't make me work over here. Come on, man.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later.
All right, guys. Take care.